Although the first two spring practices were closed to the media, head coach Dan Lanning and offensive coordinator Will Stein, as well as defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoi, had their first press conferences of the 2025 season. And I've certainly got some takeaways from what we heard from all three of these guys. And I think there's 4 bullet points. I think there's 4 good pieces of information that we already have about this 2025 Oregon Ducks football team. You know, spring practice is a time for the leaders on the team to really set themselves apart and for people to really look towards them, to really set the tone for the culture of what Oregon football is and what Oregon football is going to be in 2025, what is going to be the whys of this Oregon football team, what is going to be the motivations of this Oregon football team in 2025. And Will Stein's press conference, he really highlighted somebody that he thought was emerging as a leader on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, I mean, I love, Pancho's finding his voice. He was an underclassman last year, but now to me, he's the anchor for us up front, and he's going on. He didn't necessarily start as a freshman, but he played a lot. So to me, he's almost like a 3-year starter for us. He's definitely one of our leaders. We all know it takes time to develop leadership, and it starts with your actions. But, yeah, I believe we have the potential to have a lot of strong leaders on our team, and it's through this practice, through summer, through fall, and then through real games for them to really show. Yeah, I would say Pancho right now currently is doing a really good job up front and really establishing that culture for us.
These are all fantastic things to hear right now from Will Stein, because if you look at this offensive line, you've got 3 transfers coming in, all really expected to start. Emmanuel Preynon at guard, the 2 tackles, Isaiah World and Alex Harkey. And then if you look at the other guard, you're probably looking at someone like Matthew Bedford that's full go here to start spring practice. He was injured, of course, last year. He transferred in from Indiana. So there's one guy that's left. There's one guy that's returning that's played a lot, as Will said, the past 2 years, and that's Iapani Lalaolu. There's no doubt there needs to be a voice in this room to talk about the culture that has been established back-to-back years. The Oregon Ducks have been a Joe Moore Award finalist, and it's awesome to hear that Pancho is making his voice heard. Like, Will Stein could talk about anybody on offense, and there is a lot of youth and inexperience and new guys coming in on the offensive side of the football. So it's great to see someone that's been a big part of Oregon football, certainly last year, and then he was a 24/7 Sports true freshman All-American his first year as well. I think that this is a huge year for Iapani Lalaolu to really step up and be maybe somewhere like Jackson Powers Johnson was in 2023 as one of the best centers in college football. He's the captain of the offensive line, and I think guys in that room, especially the new guys and the new transfers, are certainly going to be looking to him for leadership. Now, when you talk about Oregon football, specifically for the 2025 season, there's a lot of inexperience right now, and there's a lot of battles that are really kicking off within spring practice right now. And I think there's segments of the fan base right now that are maybe going at it a little bit, because Oregon has been able to attract great players and bring in great players via the transfer portal. They've been able to attract and bring in great players in high school recruiting as well. And I think there's some people that really want to see those great recruits that they've brought in the last couple of years really step up into the fold. But there's also transfers that I think you need to certainly plug holes with. And we know guys in the transfer portal really have a quicker and faster option to getting up to that starting level that they expect right now from the Oregon Ducks. But as Dan Lanning said, it doesn't matter if you've been around 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It doesn't matter if you're a true freshman or a 6-year senior. If you're good enough, you're old enough.
We always say if you're good enough, you're old enough, right? And we had some young guys that can contribute last year, but maybe weren't ready for the biggest roles. And I think you'll see some of those guys step up and have bigger roles for our team this year. Again, wherever you fall in the pecking order, it doesn't matter. It matters, are you playing above the line football? And if we have a lot of guys that can play above the line football, you'll see a lot of guys on the field for us.
Spring football is all about making that first impression. I love to hear this right off the bat. First press conference from the leader of the Oregon free world right now in Dan Lanning. The best players will play. Doesn't matter if you're a true freshman. Doesn't matter who you are on this team. This is going to breed all sorts of competition really starting off in spring football. And I think it's because of this, because of these great freshmen that are coming in, because of these great guys that have been in the program for 1 year, maybe been in the program for 2 years, maybe been in the program for 3 years, maybe even been in the program pre-Dan Lanning, and these transfers coming in. You have this melting pot of all of these really good to great players. And it's all, they're going to go head-to-head in spring ball. These battles are going to turn into wars, as I've said on this show before, as we turn into fall camp. The competition will breed the very best version of Oregon football. This is why you recruit great players. This is why you bring in the best of the best in the transfer portal. So we can get the best, very best players on the field at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon. Now, there may be no room, there may be no position group that really personifies the Oregon experience, or dare I say, Oregon inexperience, more than the defense and more than the secondary room right now. But this is a little bit of another collision where you have the inexperience, but you look at some of these names and the stars behind them and the potentials they have. And now that they have the measurables that Oregon is looking for, specifically in the secondary, although there is some inexperience, and they certainly got to deal with that, there's some excitement about what's certainly coming in here in spring practice for Oregon. Take a look. Here's what Tosh Lupoi had to say about it.
You got a total lack of Oregon experience, so whether that's youth or individuals from other places that haven't had the Oregon experience. The most exciting part is our evaluation in these guys and our development that's led to this point now. So we've got to get these guys from a schematic standpoint, fundamentals and technique standpoint, to match the intensity of those three guys you just mentioned that's played a lot of reps here. Dante Manning, Taisheem Johnson, Nico Reed, that was returning from the 23 season last, right? Now what these guys, walk down the tunnel with is something different when it comes to length, speed, and the potential of what these guys come. So that's the big challenge, is can we tap in and maximize the potential that these guys have to offer? And that's really exciting, when it comes to coaching. You love that opportunity when, there's a multitude of athletes here now that are really fitting those measurement specs, that we've worked really hard bringing here.
I think that soundbite right there from defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoi is a perfect personification, not just of the players that he's coaching on defense, but really this Oregon football team as a whole. Maybe they lack the Oregon experience, being within the system, learning the scheme. For some of the transfers, got to get them up to speed, especially if they want them to start here in 2025 in week 1 when they kick off against the Montana State Bobcats. But there's also some excitement of some of these players that they've been able to bring in, and the potential, and getting them up to speed and developing them so they can be high-level, elite-level football players and achieve that higher ceiling that you get out of an elite high school player as opposed to a transfer. Now, I got one more thing that really stood out to me. There's been things that I've been talking about ad nauseum on this show, and one of them is tight end Kenyan, but you don't got to hear it from me anymore. Here's offensive coordinator Will Stein raving and getting my excitement level even higher for 18 this season.
Kenyan Sadiq's one of the best players in the country. Glad we have him back. It's my job to make sure he's getting as many touches as we can every single game. He's put on believe 15 pounds of muscle. He's nearing 250 and still looks the same speed. Has great hands. I think he's a better point of attack on the ball tight end than people might believe, just because he's so dang strong. And now he's got a great understanding of what we're doing offensively. So I think now he's really in the limelight. He is the upperclassman in that room. He's kind of the old head. Another guy, talk about leadership. Kenyan's somebody that I'm expecting to be one of those leaders on our team. He provides so much value in the pass game, in the run game, RPOs. He's a very special player. I mean, I really do believe he's one of the best players in college football. So it's my job, it's our job to make sure that he shows that ability this season.
What more needs to be said, man? Sitting somewhere around 250 pounds, putting on 15 pounds of muscle, maintaining around that 4.6 speed at the tight end position. And what I think I love the most is Will Stein saying, we got to get this guy the football. He's one of the best players in college football. I've talked about it ad nauseum. Him and Evan Stewart really, and DeCorian Moore are going to be the main targets, I think, from day one. And I'm excited to see what Will Stein can dial up in terms of creativity to get the ball to Kenyan Sadiq as much as they possibly can. Man, that jacks me up. That revs me up. All of this stuff is getting me excited and ready to go, no doubt.